What is going on, everybody? It's Alex coming back here in the video. And today, I'm going to be discussing, in my opinion, the worst cuts in free agency. These are guys who are going to be including Jalen Camp in there. Obviously, that's probably the one guy you don't recognize here and all that stuff. So we'll be talking about it. Obviously, you got to put Cam Newton here in the thumbnail because that's what we do. If you guys are wondering, am I purposely making myself this small? Yes, and you'll see why, because the graphics are fun. So let's just kick off into the video. If you guys are new, like, comment, subscribe, you know what to do. And starting off with my number one player, all you see, this is in no particular order. This was just the way I was looking at it. And then I was like, oh shit, gotta jot these down. Seth Williams. So I understand how deep the Broncos receiving room is, and he's extremely raw. But to be honest, I think that his ceiling is up there with some of the best in this class. So I understand the fact that maybe he shouldn't be on a 53-man roster for the Broncos for what he is right now. But I think that given potential for Courtland Sutton to get re-injured, knock on wood that doesn't happen because I do like Courtland Sutton a lot. I think that there's just a lot more potential to be had with Seth Williams potentially stepping in, having a bigger role. Obviously, if I made the colors wrong, it is what it is, guys. I can tell already the Broncos colors are slightly off from what I actually want them to be. But regardless, we're still going to be rocking with it. I think that was their only bad cut, to be 100% fair. I just love Seth Williams' potential, and I thought I was one of the most low people on him, and I had him as a late third, and apparently other people did too. There's just a lot of potential to be had there. I think a team like the Lions, who just lost Kenny Golladay, could use somebody like that. I tried to make sure that it wasn't too repetitive because, again, teams don't bring in a shit ton of dudes from free agency after they got cut. So we'll see what happens there. Next, we're talking about Jake Fromm. I think that he showed some flashes. He's young, cheap. Obviously, he's not going to be the number 2 guy on the Bills, but it's a really damn good depth pick. So I think that Jake Fromm shouldn't be out there in the open market. And my desired location for him, again, it's not saying these are terrible cuts because, again, that is the title of the video. But Jake Fromm's not going to do anything on the Bills, right? So it's an understandable cut. I don't think he's worth being cut. And I'm saying he shouldn't be in free agency. These are the teams that should definitely pick him up. I think New England Patriots are a perfect place for him. It was a place where we thought he was going to go to in the draft. Didn't happen, but I think he's a better version of Brian Hoyer, and that's a pretty damn good spot for him right there in New England. Big fan of that. Next, you got Quincy Roche, who actually had a really good year, a really good preseason. I was quite surprised by this one because I was honestly a pretty big fan of Quincy Roche. Had a 5th round grade on him, if not a 4th. I'm bugging right now. I don't even know. It's been a while. I think he'd worked really well in Miami. He's a good depth pick. Not saying that because he was at Miami, but he's built more as a depth for Van Ginkel and stuff like that. So I think that he worked really well with a guy like Brian Flores. You could talk about the Patriots, but they have so much depth as it is. There's no real need for that. I think that it would just be really good depth. And Quincy Roche has those high-end reps that I just don't understand why the Steelers would let him go. But I mean, if you got to cut a roster down from 80 dudes to 53, I understand when some hard cuts are being made. Speaking of the Dolphins, Bernard McKinney, who they traded for, got cut. So obviously a prime candidate is a team that only has 2 linebackers for 1 year because Jared Davis is going to be probably gone after next year. Also, Jared Davis isn't a reason not to upgrade a linebacker. Bernard McKinney. So I just think that he'd fit really well with the Jets. I don't know why the Dolphins let him go. I feel like linebacker is one of the positions the Dolphins need to solidify. Don't know really what caused Bernard McKinney to get on Brian Flores' bad side because he's obviously not bad. They traded for him. So just a really weird situation right there. Next, we got Cam Newton. I understand the COVID situation, but it's weird to have him fully cut off. I think that there should have been maybe some penalties put on by the team for a little bit until he actually got a vaccine or something before he got just purely cut. I know that the market's really small for Cam Newton because he's really in the twilight of his career. It's about to end, but it was just weird to see him just go from QB1 to cut. And I have 2 targets. I put Dolphins in here. You guys are probably like, what the hell? Why are the Dolphins in here? I put an asterisk saying if they trade for Deshaun Watson, because usually that would mean Tua Tagovailoa is being moved, And then Deshaun Watson's probably going to be suspended for the entire year before coming back. So Cam Newton could be a really good bridge quarterback right there. I'll give credit to our former co-host, Keon, for bringing up that idea because, honestly, he'd be able to get his revenge. And it's pretty much not that big of a drop from Tua right at the moment. So we'll see about that. But another one, obviously, is Ron Rivera as a backup. We'll see what happens there as well. He's a no-nonsense coach. I'm sure that he probably would get a little pissy with Cam Newton not having the vaccine either, which is a big factor. I don't know if he actually makes any of these teams. He might be done for good. So we'll see what happens. Kenny Yeboah, that was one where I totally disagreed. I thought it was kind of weird and like odd to release Kenny Yeboah. You just traded Chris Herndon, and I saw it pop up. So he unless the information on like NFL.com is wrong, then he's gone. Arizona Cardinals definitely need to continue developing that tight end room. I don't give a damn what Cliff Kingsbury wants to do with his tight ends as pure blockers. It's called you need to evolve to the NFL because what you have done hasn't worked. And Kenny Yeboah put up 100 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns in like his last preseason game. It's just really weird because he's a very talented tight end and has some very high-end reps. Just doesn't make any sense for a team that is completely barren. I was thinking about maybe saying, oh, we could send him also another target is Jacksonville. That's a legit spot. But, Jets, Cardinals, and the Jags could all use him. And the Jets got rid of him. It just doesn't make sense. Kadarius Hodge was next. I was surprised because Kadarius Hodge is somebody who has been pretty damn consistent, a good depth player for the Browns. I think another player that could go to Detroit. I mean, you're releasing Rashad Perriman, and he was supposed to be your number one wide receiver. If he's supposed to be your number one wide receiver, you have a problem. Amon-Ra St. Brown is not that great. So it's not like Kadarius Hodge is going to be a big step down on the roster in terms of depth. I think he'd be worth it. Shane Buechele was next. He was definitely a really solid dude. I'm going to actually change it because I totally forgot about putting Jake Fromm to the Patriots. He would fit really well in the Patriots, right? But I would probably, we're just going to do this live. We're not going to be putting him to the Patriots, obviously. When I think about where he could go, a team I could see is actually the team below, Minnesota. Jake Browning sucks. And then it's obvious Kellen Mond's not ready to be a backup. He needs a couple more years to be ready to be a backup, which some people would find blasphemous, but, just watch the tape. I'm going to be switching to Minnesota. Definitely a team that needs a backup. Or you could even say the Jets. Jets could use someone like Shane. Shane's just really solid. I don't really give. You could talk about the Chargers as well. He's a better version of Chase Daniel, in my opinion. But there's a lot of routes. Kiki QT is next. That was probably my biggest surprise. It's like, dude, Kiki was the starter for the Texans, and the Texans aren't that great. I think Minnesota could use a slot wide receiver. I know they got Blake Pearl there. It is Blake Pearl. But there's just, Kiki is a starting caliber slot wide receiver who is really young. Worst case scenario, he's behind a guy like Pearl. I think that slot weapon area is something that the Minnesota Vikings can kind of capitalize on. I don't get why Kiki was released. I wonder if he wanted to be released. That could be a reason why. I only know one dude actually asked to be released so far, and that was John Brown. And that's why I didn't include him on this list, is because he requested it. I want to see where John Brown goes because that'd be interesting. But I think Kiki's really solid, man. It's weird. He had 10 receptions in his first ever game. I think it was a rookie record. Just the kid has talent. Next, we got Prince Tega Winogo. Yes, I did shorten it because I like it fitting on one line. Blame my OCD. Pittsburgh Steelers are a great destination. We have absolute crap for an offensive line. So, obviously, Joe Haig, Dotson did really well in the preseason. So that's good. But Prince Tega could definitely be worth bringing onto the roster. I don't think he's that far from Dan Moore. So we'll see what happens there. Obviously, the Steelers line didn't stink during preseason, which is great. But they're far ways away from being pretty damn solid. So Prince Tega could be an interesting guy. I think he was a 3rd-round pick, 4th. It's worth just bringing up and bringing onto the team. Next is Dez Fitzpatrick. It's very rare that you see a 4th-round pick get cut. I thought Dez was he was a bit of a reach at that spot, and I'm just realizing now that for the Titans, I chose 2 different red colors. Very irritating. But he was definitely not worth a 4th-round pick, right? The Titans definitely fucked up on that part. But he is definitely a good route runner, which I thought maybe he could learn from AJ Brown. And it's just you don't usually get rid of a fourth round pick. So I think a team that could use stability and somebody who just lost a pretty good route runner is Houston Texans. Just give them somebody who's young, extremely cheap, and a high end player. So Des Fitzpatrick definitely. Next, speaking of same team and same team in college, Javion Hawkins, who was actually brought on by the Atlanta Falcons. Funnily enough, I kind of wanted to bring him back to the Falcons, but looking at a team that could use a guy who has some burst and has some power, Jacksonville. I think that getting some extra running back depth there wouldn't be too shabby. Probably would be like their fourth running back, but Hawkins has that upside. He has some burn and speed there, and he likes to initiate contact. Seems like a guy Urban Meyer would be interested in. Next, we got Anthony Johnson from the Steelers. He's been extremely consistent. I was honestly shocked to see the Steelers get rid of him. He seemed like a Steelers type of wide receiver. So I really don't get it because Anthony's been doing a really good job, and I felt like he and Deion Kane were both really good fits on this team. Don't know why we're getting rid of him. But Vegas Raiders, obviously, I think they could use Anthony Johnson similar to like a backup to Bryan Edwards. He's just a good player, man. He's really good depth. If you need somebody to be there in the clutch, he's pretty good. I feel like he's almost like a shittier version of Marquez Callaway, but that's worth a depth. I just don't get it. Next, Desmond Trufant. The Bears cut one of their only guys who could start at corner. They also cut Thomas Graham. I was going to put him in on this list as well. But Desmond's going to be going to San Francisco, which is another team that does kind of need an infusion of help at the cornerback position. And they're pretty good at reviving old corners. So Desmond Trufant going to the Niners wouldn't be a bad idea. Another spot, Arizona. You could even look. I know that they just got Sidney Jones, but the Seattle Seahawks, teams that desperately need some cornerback help, Desmond Trufant's on the market, and he might not be amazing, but he certainly has that experience to be able to reach in and find his old self. And then Jalen Camp, doing this for Richard, obviously, but I thought that, he definitely didn't seem like he was ready to be on a 53-man roster. I just think that his blocking and his measurables were pretty damn solid. So I think that he has the size, he has the height. I think he could be a really interesting Joker tight end. I thought about including the Vikings here before the Trey Herndon trade, right? But is his name Trey? I think it's Trey Herndon. But you could even talk about a team like the Giants here that could use him as like a Joker tight end. I think the Steelers love their guys who can block the hell out of somebody, and they could also use another guy. I mean, we have two competent tight ends right now. You got Ebron, who's going to be up for a contract. And then you have, obviously, Pat Freiermuth, who's going to be our starting dude. Jalen Camp's not going to be a starter, right? It would just be really good depth to have him as maybe a big slot. We see Deontay Johnson get injured all the time. Not Deontay Johnson. I'm bugging on his first name. Washington wants to get traded anyways. Jalen Camp wouldn't be a bad option, especially since you just lost a bigger, hulkier wide receiver and Anthony Johnson. Just a thought. Next, we got Jimmy Morrissey. We're coming up to the end, everybody. Jimmy Morrissey from the Raiders. This is a team that has Nick Barton as a center, right? Somebody that the Houston Texans didn't even want. Speaking of the Houston Texans, why not? Morrissey is definitely talented enough to be able to at least offer some form of quality depth. And a team like Houston Texans kind of need it. I was thinking about putting the Steelers here as well, but, you don't need to send up to the Steelers. Jimmy Moreland, Washington football team. Again, wrong color red. Slot corner. There was a reason why, and I'm forgetting about it right now. I think it was something to do with like an injury history, if I'm not mistaken. The Bears just lost Thomas Graham, and I don't think they have a starting caliber slot corner anymore. That's where it could be. It's definitely a talented corner right there. He and Jalen Johnson could be a pretty damn good duo. So I think that would be a good fit right there. Travis Fulgham, another huge surprise. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside makes it when they do the bum versus Travis Fulgham, who actually started games and was kind of lighting it up for a bit. Really weird. I think a team like Baltimore could use a bigger wide receiver like that, who is pretty damn solid at separation and being able to just use his physical tools that do not include speed to his advantage. And it's a team that it's a guy that like Lamar Jackson could probably use. And that's something that I really do like. Next, Cornell Powell. I know that Brochmel thought actually no, that was the guy. That's the guy from Tennessee, Josh Palmer on the Chargers. But Cornell Powell, still a lot of people liked, including myself. Not that high. It's not like it was crazy good, but for the Chiefs, they kind of needed a third wide receiver. Really weird that Cornell did not fit out that build because he stepped in when Justin Ross went down over there at Clemson. A team that could use some really quality depth is Atlanta. Somebody, he's going to be going back over into the South again, but he's definitely a talented wide receiver, and he's young, and Atlanta doesn't have much. They have Calvin Ridley and pretty much Kyle Pitts. If you want to call that disrespectful to a guy like Russell Gage, sure. But I don't think Cornell Powell is that off from being able to be good depth there. Just saying. And then Daz Newsome. There's another slide after this. I don't get the Bears. We just lost Anthony Miller, right? Our starting slot guy. So just kind of weird for me to lose Daz Newsome, who is at worst a quality rotational piece. The Saints have Jack in terms of depth as well, and I think that'd be a perfect place for him to go. So there you go. Then speaking of the Bears, continuing to make terrible cuts, Riley Ridley, also going back to the Falcons because, of course, his brother's there. But Riley was doing a damn good job. He's been very consistent. It's like Javon Wims, but Javon Wims has personality problems. Riley Ridley was really talented. So I don't get why they're cutting him. It's not like the Bears are like totally free of any issues in their receiving room. Their number one might not even play this year, to be 100% fair. So I don't know. Really weird for me. Jelani Tavai was next. He's a second round pick, right? I don't think that should be the reason why he doesn't get cut. Like, it's been a while since he was a second round pick, but the Lions linebacker group is pretty barren. They have like Alex Anzalone, and then Jelani Tavai can't make that cut. Really weird. Eagles are a team that could use some extra linebacker help. Davion Taylor is one of the starters. I don't know if he's actually started. Pardon me, but he's certainly in consideration for starting. Jelani Tavai brings that second round pedigree where he was probably a third, like a late third. That's kind of worth taking a shot on, especially for a team like the Eagles, where you're in a division where there's usually a lot of injuries. Like Jelani Tavai can be excellent depth and step in and make a big impact as the season goes on. Just a thought. And then Everson Griffin, last but not least, the Vikings have absolutely no help at edge. They were the worst last year with like 23 sacks. And then you cut your veteran. It's really weird. I'm saying you should go back to the Dallas Cowboys again. He was there. It's just Dallas needs the help. He's a veteran presence. You don't have Alden Smith there anymore, so give him a shot. Honestly, give him a shot. So that's going to be my list. Honestly, let me know if you guys have any other dudes who were like, wow, I thought that they should have been cut or that they should not have been cut. Or, hey, I think this guy needs to be on a roster. Let me know if you think any of these guys should not be on a roster. I'm circling Cam Newton right now because he probably should not be on a roster. But let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.